I think, look, Harry is he is the prodigal son, but, the prodigal son did return to the fold, and let's all hope that happens one day. I hope it does happen, but at the moment, I mean, has he been married 7 years now, is it?
Well, it's 7-year anniversary.
Yeah, so 7 years.
This week was their 7th week. Do you remember that? You must remember. Where were you You were there in Windsor.
Oh, I was there. Hated the day. The day was a miserable day. I mean, it was a...
Really? I thought...
Well, was it? Well, I can tell you now, it was the worst royal engagement I ever did, a royal wedding I ever did, because Harry was determined to keep the newspapers away from it as much as possible. Everything was done on long lenses. I mean, I tell you, I had an 800mm lens photographing the guests arriving, and the photographers they engaged for the job was 5 feet away. It was just hopeless. And then the carriage shot, when they went past me in the carriage, they looked the other way. So for me, it was a disaster. And
well, was that deliberate? You were made to feel unwelcome.
I felt so. I felt it wasn't just me; it was the whole of the British press. They were. In many ways, badly treated. I think it was Harry was angry with us, really, because some of the things that have been said about Meghan, and quite rightly, some of the things that were said about Meghan during the engagement were pretty harsh. I want to sort of mention them now, but some of them were pretty unfair as well. And so he was angry, and I felt, we were punished for that. And in fact, I never got one picture in the paper published from that day. And when I think, I've done some really lovely royal weddings. I did both King Charles's weddings. I did William's wedding. I did Andrew's wedding. I did Sophie and Edward. I mean, they were lovely occasions, but that today, I couldn't get out of Windsor quick enough, I promise you that
the
day.
worst royal wedding to cover.
Yeah, and then when the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster, because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get pictures of it. I mean, obviously, when William was born and Harry was born and George and Charlotte and Louis, we got great pictures outside the hospital. I remember, and William and Catherine especially, they made such an effort to show the whole world their new baby. But I mean, I say this, but Harry's baby Archie was almost teething before we found out it was born. I mean, it was. We were led to believe that she was gone into labour at 2:00 when the baby had been born many hours earlier. We were led to believe it was going to be a home birth, and it was at a hospital. The whole thing was just stage managed to suit them. And in fact, I never stayed in Windsor. There was a royal tour to Germany with the King and Queen, and I went with them, and couldn't get away from Windsor quick enough. And I remember showing Camilla in I think Munich, the first pictures of Archie that was taken by the Press Association. I remember showing her on my phone, and she sort of, and that was the first time she saw him. So it was difficult times. I have to say though, that first year of Meghan, that working with her on the road, I mean, we went all over the country. I mean, she was incredible. I mean, I thought she was. And I was saying this, I thought she was a great asset to the family. And I kept asking the palace if we could have a meeting with her. The royal people, the people who cover the royals, could have a meeting with Meghan, like we did with Catherine. And, so introduce ourselves and let her to know who was writing about her and photographing her. And I was assured it was going to happen, but it never did. And then pretty soon, she'd made her mind up that they were going, and that was it. But
do you get a sense that they made? If you're talking about the wedding, everyone was made to feel unwelcome.
Not everybody, just the British
press,
yeah,
just
British
the people
press,
that travel the whole world, spend their whole life.
All my life, And then Oprah Winfrey had met them once. She was a guest. The Clooneys, the guests. I mean, never met them before, but they were the guests. And I thought to myself, this is all showbiz rubbish. You know,
Did you get a sense then that they wanted out, that they wanted a California life, that they wanted showbiz, that they weren't interested? If they weren't interested in making people feel welcome at the wedding, it just seems to me they made a decision back in 7 years ago. That they
I'm looking. I mean, Oprah Winfrey was there, and then the first big interview they did was with Oprah Winfrey, and you know, most of that interview was left on the cutting room floor because it was so one-sided and it was so unfair. And I think about watching it now, and you know, the bit about Archie and the colour of his skin. And I knew they'd be seething. I knew the Queen would be seething. I knew that the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, would be seething. It would be so unfair, because one thing they're not is racist. You know, they are not. I've been with the King all over Africa, all over South America. I've never seen only just engaging and enjoying the company of these people. So, you know, it would be no way that he would be like that. He's just and it was just an unfair thing to say. But it was, you know, I mean, she delivered it like an actress delivered it, and Oprah responded going, wow, you know, as though like you know, it was awful. And then of course, some of the Netflix stuff and the book, oh God, you know, it was dreadful. But
so to confirm, Arthur, you didn't do anything to celebrate Harry and Meghan's 7th wedding anniversary?
I'll tell you what, no, I don't even, I'm surprised it lasted that long. No, many people said it wouldn't, but it has. I mean, they obviously, you know, they're probably happy together. They've got 2 lovely children. And it's one of the saddest things of all, Matt, of course, is that the children don't get to see their grandfather, either grandfather, you know, and that's really so awful, because they're not getting to meet their cousins and to know their cousins, and it's such a shame for them.
No, it is. Happier times this week. Buckingham Palace garden parties, Chelsea flower show as well. Can you give us just a flavour? You've done lots of them. We talked about 50 years, your golden anniversary, but you've done a lot of these. Can you just give a flavour of what it's like? And many people haven't attended a Buckingham Palace garden party. Yeah. I mean, they're, you know, the highlight in the calendar for many people if you get a ticket and you get to go there. But what is it like at a garden party or Chelsea flower show when you're with the King, the Queen, Prince and Princess of Wales, etc.?
Well, I've been to several garden parties with my wife, and they are amazing. I mean, first and foremost, everybody's beautifully dressed. I mean, the women must spend millions of pounds on clothes. They look lovely. And then, of course, the royals come out, and then there's a big lineup. And people think that lineup is exclusive, but it isn't. If you've been invited, you can join that lineup, and you get to meet the King and Queen, King or the Queen, one does either side. But the food is lovely. There's so much of it. The tea is absolutely. I mean, tea is my favourite drink. It's absolutely.
Yeah, I can testify for that. Tea is your favourite drink.
And it's really, and you can walk around the gardens and the lake, and it's the most beautiful afternoon, and you see so many people, you know, or they know you, and it's a really, and the 2 hours it goes in a flash, you know, it goes so quickly, but it's really lovely. And I've been to the Chelsea Flower Show every year for the last 30 years, it must be. And every year, where the Queen used to go, the Queen was the patron of the Royal Horticultural Society. And the big thing is the route she takes through the gardens. Everybody desperately wants the Queen to come through the garden.
Hello, and welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales. I'm your host, Adrian, and today we're diving into a story that takes us back to the magical yet controversial wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in 2018. While the world was captivated by the fairy tale-like ceremony, royal photographer Arthur Edwards recently described it as the worst royal engagement he's ever covered. Why? Well, his claims shed light on the tension between the Sussexes and the British press, a relationship that has only grown more fraught over the years. Grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's unpack the drama, the media entitlement, and Harry and Meghan's quest to reclaim their narrative. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Arthur Edwards, a seasoned royal photographer with decades of experience, recently gave an interview to The Sun where he claimed that covering Harry and Meghan's wedding was a miserable experience. He cited restricted press access, long lenses for distant shots, and an overall feeling of being unwelcome. Edwards even alleged that Harry deliberately ignored his camera during the iconic carriage procession, calling the experience a disaster for the British press. But before we jump to conclusions, let's ask ourselves, was this Harry being vindictive, or was it a necessary stand against an institution that had long exploited his personal life? Arthur Edwards, a veteran royal photographer, was there to capture it all. He had spent decades documenting the lives of the royal family, witnessing countless public appearances and private moments. Edwards, known for his often sympathetic view of the royals, later remarked on the palpable joy radiating from Harry that day. The prince, once a mischievous boy who had grappled with his place in the world, seemed to have found true happiness with Meghan. Yet, even as the couple exchanged vows, a storm was brewing in the background. The British tabloid press, notorious for their ruthless pursuit of sensational stories, had already set their sights on the newlyweds. What should have been a period of unbridled joy and celebration was quickly overshadowed by a barrage of negative press. The tabloids, hungry for scandal, seemed determined to find fault with Meghan, scrutinising her every move and amplifying every perceived misstep. This relentless negativity raised a crucial question. Why was the British press so intent on targeting the Duchess of Sussex? The answer, in part, lay in the unique set of circumstances surrounding Meghan's entry into the royal family. As a biracial American divorcee, she represented a significant departure from the traditional mould of a royal bride. This alone made her a target for the more conservative elements of the British press, who seemed threatened by what they perceived as a challenge to the established order. However, the scrutiny went far beyond mere disapproval of her background. Meghan, with her successful acting career and outspoken nature, represented a modern, independent woman, a stark contrast to the often submissive role expected of royal wives. The tabloids, accustomed to dictating the narrative surrounding the royal family, felt threatened by her refusal to conform. Fueling this animosity was an undercurrent of racism and xenophobia that permeated much of the coverage. Meghan's biracial heritage became a point of fixation, with some outlets resorting to coded language and dog-whistle tactics to undermine her position. This blatant prejudice, often disguised as harmless gossip, exposed the ugly underbelly of the British media landscape. To understand the ferocity of the tabloid press, one must understand the peculiar institution known as the Royal Rota. This system, established decades ago, grants a select group of British media outlets exclusive access to cover the royal family's official engagements. In exchange for this privilege, these outlets are expected to self-regulate, adhering to a code of conduct that emphasises respect and accuracy. However, the rota system has long been criticised for creating an unhealthy dynamic between the royals and the press. Critics argue that it fosters a culture of dependence, where the royal family relies on the goodwill of the rota to maintain a positive public image. This dependence, in turn, gives the tabloids considerable leverage, allowing them to dictate the terms of engagement and punish those who dare to challenge their authority. Prince Harry, who had witnessed firsthand the devastating impact of media intrusion on his own life, harboured deep reservations about this system. He believed that the rota, while ostensibly granting access, ultimately served to exploit the royal family, commodifying their lives for the sake of sensational headlines. In the lead-up to their wedding, Harry and Meghan found themselves at the mercy of this relentless media machine. The tabloids, sensing a potential for scandal, published a slew of negative stories about Meghan's family, her upbringing, and even her personality. The couple's attempts to clarify or refute these stories were often ignored or twisted to fit the pre-existing narrative. The situation reached a boiling point when it was revealed that Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, would not be attending the wedding due to health reasons. This personal tragedy became fodder for the tabloids, who published invasive articles speculating about the state of their relationship and accusing Thomas of staging paparazzi photos for financial gain. Faced with this unrelenting negativity, Harry and Meghan made the difficult decision to limit press access at their wedding. They opted for a more intimate affair, inviting only close friends and family to witness their vows in person. This decision, while understandable given the circumstances, was met with outrage by some members of the British press, who accused the couple of being anti-press and out of touch with the public. So, where do we go from here? Arthur Edwards's comments give us a glimpse into the growing chasm between the Sussexes and the British media, but Harry and Meghan's actions weren't about spiting photographers. They were about reclaiming their lives in the face of relentless scrutiny. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and I'll see you in the next episode of Meghan and Harry Tales. Until then, take care.